I'm really excited tonight because I have an amazing guest with me coming to us from California. Not only is he an amazing actor, but he has a heart of gold who is using his platform and his voice for the ocean, environmental causes, and animal welfare. Welcome, David Chokachi.
Hey, how you doing, Kristi?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
Everybody knows the actor, the Hollywood, the fame part, but all of those other parts of you that you're doing right now to make the world a better place is also, an incredible feat. And I love watching people use their platform to make the world a better place. So that's where I kind of want to start with you this evening, if that's okay. Who is David Chokachi?
Okay, I won't bore people, but hello there. My name is David Chokachi. Yes, we live out in Malibu, California, and I've been where I started. I moved to LA in 1994. I arrived 2 days before the Northridge earthquake, which was welcome to LA for me. It was, I was all fired up, ready to go. And obviously the city was shut down. I ended up working for FEMA because a friend of mine worked higher up, and I have a construction background. And he was like, yeah, man, you can make some money. You got to go. You can just go inspect chimneys in Northridge and say yes or no on an iPad, basically, if they're structurally sound or not. And so I did that for like 6 months. Then the business picked back up, and I ended up getting an audition for that audition to replace as being the new young lead on the show, and beat out 1,000 dudes. And my career took off from there, and cut to 30 years later. I've probably the last 15 months, I've done more movies, I think, in a row than I ever have in my life. And I think a big part of it, honestly, I started, I've always been, I recognized early on, I was introduced to the Surfrider Foundation. I think it was maybe my first episode on Baywatch. We were doing a water quality episode, testing the water, because what happens is every administration that comes into the, new administration, they look at water quality testing as that's an easy cut. Okay, we're cutting things. We're bringing the budget down. And in reality, water quality testing for people who live near the ocean but they want to come swim in the ocean, if you don't know if that water is contaminated, has bacteria in it or not, it's actually a really important part of, things that have to happen in order to keep our ocean safe. And that's when I met Surfrider Foundation. And ever since that first episode, I've been basically an ambassador for them. And I actually went down to DC and testified on the importance of water quality testing for someone who, I'm an avid surfer, ocean swimmer, you name it. And I was actually given they have this really cool award they only give out once every 4 years. It's called the Keeper of the Coast. And that year is myself, it was Eddie Vedder, and Incubus, the band, who all were, had just gone out of their way to kind of support the mission of Surfrider Foundation. So even when I got on Beyond the Break, I convinced them, let's do an episode that involves Surfrider Foundation. I was just trying to implement what they're doing into whatever I was doing it. Especially if it was a TV series and it made sense, and they loved it, because that show revolved around surfing in the ocean. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've always, social media wasn't around back then, but you still had an audience. And the one upside about being somewhat known, I don't know where I fall in the world, I don't really care, but I mean, I do have somewhat of an audience, is that you can advocate for things you really believe in. So the ocean is dear to my heart. I taught my daughter how to surf starting at age 3. She was on the front of my board, and now she's a part of the junior lifeguard program at Zuma Beach. And so the ocean is a huge part of her life now. And then obviously dog rescue, I've been doing that since 2000, been helping out. And then more so specifically during the Palisades fire, this group I worked with, Best Friends Animal Society, said, hey, would you come out and they were trying to get, what happens is there's a group called Wings of Rescue. That's who I'm a flight crew leader for now.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which basically means I'm the dude who like hauls the crates with like 108-pound like Saint Bernard in it, but or they're small, or we fly cats sometimes too. But it's a lot of dogs, and we get, the plane is only so much space, and you're trying to fit. You don't want to leave one dog behind, because a lot of the times either we're flying dogs out of an active natural disaster, or we're pulling them from or they're pulling them from shelters. Basically, they're on an imminent euthanasia list, which means they're going to be killed within 1, 2, 3 days. So if they don't find them placement in other shelters around the country, those dogs are just gone. It's a horrible situation. So they are on Wings of Rescue is an amazing organization. They pay for their own planes, their own fuel, and they just work nonstop. They don't have even a brick and mortar. It's a small group of people, and so I ended up loading like 6 or 7 planes during the fires. And then a month later, the president of the company reached out and said, "Hey, would you be willing to be a flight crew member for us?" Which basically means just where you're kind of like a standby guy, and they'll fly me commercially to wherever the Wings of Rescue plane is going to originate its mission from. And then, so I usually get there the day before, because flying these dogs usually involves either like overnight flights sometimes, or we're loading them at 3 a.m. to get going, because we're going to stop at so if we leave like Dallas Fort Worth, Texas, we're going to stop outside of DC, then we're going to go to New Hampshire, and then we're going to go to Maine. So you have dogs that are going to all 3, because one shelter can't take all those dogs. And the cool thing is, a lot of times, like, people around the country want to adopt. They want to adopt a rescue. They can't get them. They don't, they're not up in in the Pacific Northwest. They don't have them all from DC up to Maine. They just don't have an abundance like we do. So they work tirelessly with all these different shelters to navigate, when they have enough space. And then they're just pulling dogs that are, in these shelters, whether it's DC, whether it's Texas, California. We fly out of California a lot. Florida has a bad problem. We've been down to St. Kitts. We were down there recently, and we've flown dogs out of Puerto Rico quite a bit. There's a project over there called the Sato Project. And Kristi Beckles is the name of the woman. And because I'm not sure about the Dominican, I have a feeling it's probably this happens across all the Caribbean, but Puerto Rico has 600,000 stray dogs, and they people are poisoning the dogs. Not good. And they're putting poison inside meat, and wherever they see them, they throw it. And I've seen the footage of a dog dying, or multiple dogs dying of poison. It's not something you want to see. Yeah. Like, I can't unsee it now. But what she does is, that project is, she will study an area of the island. And these are not nuisance dogs. They're not in your trash cans. You can't even, you have to go searching for them. They're in the mangroves, hiding away from humans, and they can survive off the land. They're super smart. So she kind of studies, her and her team, they'll study the younger ones that look like they could be, kind of domesticated, brought in. So she brings them into her program. She will treat them for all the diseases they have. And then they work with them with trainers to basically domesticate them so they can get them adopted out. And her adoption rate is through the roof. Out here in where I live in Malibu, I bumped into like 3 people who have adopted from the Sato Project alone. And usually when we fly those dogs, almost 80% are pre-adopted through this back and forth vetting system process that they do. So it's amazing. And I love it. It's usually it's a lot of work, and this is no sleep for a couple of days. But it's like I feel like when the trip ends, I usually am the only one. I fly back to LA, wherever we end up, and whoever I'm flying with from Wings of Rescue, they go back to either the president lives in Florida, and the other 2 women live in Texas, and so I'll be flying back, and it's a strange feeling because I hear, after what you spend this time with these dogs, and I find out the reality of the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll always take out some dogs during the flight and I'll videotape me just kind of playing with them, because when we land, I'll give that video to the rescue or the shelter they're going to be in, and then people can see, oh wow, that's what the dog is like outside of a shelter, and that's why fostering is such an important thing, because when you
Mm-hmm.
back so quickly, they're so resilient, and so I'll videotape all, every time we fly. When we fly, it's not like, I mean, imagine this, the guy, the president I fly with a lot, he sits in this jumper seat right behind the pilots. That's a horrible seat too. I mean, you get to like listen to FA or the flight and all that nonsense, but you can't really like lay down, and then the other option, I lay on the steel floor. It's like, it's a shelled out cargo plane. And I bring my camping inflatable pad. I learned the hard way. I bring that, and then I bring out like the dogs, and I take video of them, and I stretch and just just kind of just do my thing during these flights. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so rewarding, and I'm always flying home back to LA. I'm just like, it's like been 30, I don't know, 24 hours of nonstop, and I hear people like, and I also find out like I had flown these two pit puppies. They're brothers, and they were so, I mean, sweet, and like they were going to be euthanized within like 2 days, and I couldn't even wrap my mind around that, because here's like and when I like interacted with them, they played on top of my lap. They were amazing. Then they fell asleep on top of each other, like stacked like
Oh.
this, and I was like, and I got it all on video, and I was like, oh my god, like the fact that they're going to be just erased from the earth, because, and it's not the shelter's fault, like that.
Right.
I used to think it was, but it's not. It's basically, it's people, it's human beings being super irresponsible. It's breeders, it's people who are not spaying, neutering, it's a number of things, but the fact that I feel like I'm actually making a difference, and I love being around dogs, and it's super physical work, and it's feeling every time something happens, usually like randomly, like weird stuff happens, and I'm a really good problem solver,
Uh-huh.
and so I love it. It's a really great thing. Yeah.
No, I mean, and I've seen some of your videos of you, with the dogs, and I think you have a couple of your own,
Yeah.
and I saw you and your daughter, playing with them, and I think that it is admirable, because yes, here in the Dominican Republic, they do the same thing. People
It's really.
do poison the dogs, and it is very, very sad to watch. There are a lot of stray dogs as well here, and it just breaks your heart to see that. So I think what you're doing is amazing and incredible. How did you learn, where and when, and how did you learn how to fly a cargo plane?
No, I don't fly. I'm not the pilot.
Okay, because I'm
No,
just
no,
like,
no. So
wow.
I'm basically like I'm like the labor.
Okay.
I'm like the dog handler. So
Gotcha.
I do all the loading. Like, so we'll have, like, on the bigger flights, we'll have 140 dogs. And so, and it's all kind of like, you got
Wow.
to work fast and hard, because the dogs have already been either coming from a shelter, that now they're going into a crate. They're going to be in that crate for, up to 10 hours, because they got to go from the shelter.
Right.
Sometimes it's a 2 hour drive to the airport we're flying out of, and then we got to load them, and then we got to fly them. And
Oh my
so I
god.
just, even the first flight, the reason the president, Rick, Browdy hired or called and said, hey, do you want to do this? Is because I saw the situation, and it was like the fires were happening. It was like 110 degrees in Burbank. These dogs were all sitting in their crates, and I
Oh.
knew they were like had a long flight. So I was just like inside that plane. By the time I was done, I was just covered in sweat. But I was like, you got to move fast, because like this is just not a good environment for the dogs to like. But it's better than being euthanized. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, it is, but at the same time, yes. I mean, and then again, what is the answer, right? Because like you said, you're a good problem solver, but it's only as good as the number of people that there are that want to actually adopt the dogs, you know. And
Yeah.
so I mean, it's amazing, and I think I'm your platform is making a very big difference because, you know, your notoriety ultimately is bringing more eyes onto that, and so therefore, you know, making a bigger effect in the long term than you know other people would, you know. So
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I've noticed. It was funny, like like my social media, because I was posting a lot about dogs, dog rescue, and then some of the harsh realities of like the stuff in Puerto Rico. And I asked this girl who's kind of like she has tons of followers. I'm not into that world of followers, but I just noticed this drop of fucking followers, and she was helping me kind of navigate my social media, trying to like fine tune it. She's like, "It's because you're posting too much stuff about like the
the
like
negative,
dogs and the euthanasia." And I was like,
yeah.
"Are you kidding me? People are dropping like unfollowing me because they don't want to know the reality of what's happening in our world." Like that was like that made me want to like just delete all my social media. But
It's sad but true.
it is sad. It just kind of shows the mentality of a lot of people. But that's not everybody, a lot of
No,
people know
no,
it's a brutal endeavor. Even what Wings for Rescue does, like they fly every weekend. There's usually 2 or 3 flights going, and the amount of work, logistics that go back have to happen just to make these flights happen is
yeah.
like, and they're all donation based. So please visit their website. It's wingsofrescue.org. And if you have,
Wingsofrescue.org.
yeah, and
Yeah,
if you have an interest, you can make a donation. Every dollar goes right back into trying to pay for the next flight.
yeah.
And I've never, I've been a part of like these other rescue groups, but there's never been an opportunity like this where I'm like hands on. I'm like
Right.
I'm really, I'm a key part of this organization right now. He just called. He's like, "Hey, can you do this another flight coming up?" It's like an overnight flight we do from Riverside to Maine, but you load dogs at like 9:30 at night, and then you fly all night. And it's a plane for some reason that we've done twice in the past. It's just it's like a turboprop, but it fits a lot of dogs. But it's like a 7 hour. Plus, we have to stop outside Kansas City to refuel. But it feels like it's like 8 hours to go from the West Coast to the East Coast. When normally, like on a commercial plane, that's 4.5. So it's a long night. But I did have the opportunity to bring Jesse Cove, who's in
Uh-huh.
President, down with me on a recent Wings of Rescue trip that we did we did Riverside to Seattle, and he's also in that dog rescue. That's kind of how we bonded on set, and he was blown away. He's like he's forever changed, and he's like now he's up in Canada doing a movie, but he's like, when's the next flight? When can I go with you again? When can I go with you again?
That's
Because
amazing.
it's when you see the dogs in person, and you realize. And I'll sit there because a lot of times I can't pull all of them obviously out of their crates, but there's like 10 dogs, like because they're stacked, like we stack them 3 across 3 high, and they're just staring back at me a lot of the time, like
Oh,
either like what are we doing, or they're pretty chill. Like once we take off, when we're loading them, they're barking, going crazy, and they're not like freaking, but they're like but as soon as we take off on every single flight, they go just silent. So they're just like sleeping, and they chill out. And but I'll be looking at them, like, and they're looking directly in my eyes, like, and I'm like just like
it's got to
imagining
be
like
heartbreaking.
it's I am honestly on that flight back to LA every time, like I'll be like literally crying out the window to my like crying like, and then I'll hear someone like, recently this guy would not stop complaining about how cold it was in the plane, and I was just ready to absolutely like
Yeah.
punch him in the face and be like, bring a sweater, dude, and
Right.
stop bothering the stewardess, because we also had to like do emergency landing because this guy would not stop harassing them. And I'm like, if you like that mentality, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and other things like,
Are much more important.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, it's great, and I thank you so much for even taking the time to highlight that part of what I do, because it's super important to me, and it's become like outside of my daughter, it's like I'd rather be. I love working as an actor. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
to be honest, the feeling of flying dogs, and you know that every dog on that flight, you're saving its life, and being a part of that is way more rewarding than being on a movie set or
Right. But you know what? The two kind of, I think, go hand in hand, because your notoriety in the movies ultimately brings eyes to you, which ultimately then brings eyes to the causes that you're doing. So by doing that, it allows more people to be exposed to the work that you're doing,
Exactly.
in on the outside of the Hollywood scheme, you know?
Yeah, no, these guys are like, we did like KTLA, which is like the morning entertainment show in LA, and so I brought like, you know, I Wings of Rescue T-shirts, and I made sure like right away I'm squeezing this in.
Yeah.
So I'm handing out the people, like the on-camera people, Wings of Rescue T-shirts, so we have to talk about it. They can't skip over it.
Yeah.
And these guys, like the president of the company and this other woman, Cassie, and now the two women who worked tirelessly in this endeavor, they were just like, dude, where did you come from? Like, you're like the worker bee, and then you're just like plugging us everywhere you can. And I mean, it's like the one upside. I like say, what else would I do? What I talk about, like with my like a platform, like this is something I really believe in. I care about, you know, immensely. I see the problem like firsthand, like how bad it is, and I want to make a difference in this world. You know, I personally want to make the world a better place, and I try to do that every day. Like whether it's saying hi to someone like who's not having a good day, or picking up trash at the beach, or flying dogs, whatever it is. That's kind of, I don't know. And you know, I found like I can't even preach this stuff. I can't. I even my own family, I'm like, I'll come back from a trip and I'll tell them, yo, I amped up, and they're like, oh, that's great, yeah. And they're dog lovers. Like we have 2 rescues, but they just you just have to like do it. You just have to lead by example, is what I've learned, because anytime you get up on your pedestal and you start like, hey, you should do this or that, or you know, then people are like, yeah, no.
Yep.
So,
no. And I agree with you. Leading by example and being that person that is going to put themselves out there, not just, you know, you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is the most important part. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we are going to come back with you. So stick around, and we'll be right back with an interview with David Chokachi.
And you got my name right.
Every Friday at 7 p.m., Punta Cana Hits presents What's Up Punta Cana with Kristi Maggio, the #1 English talk show in the area, with the best that the Dominican Republic and the rest of the world have to offer.
Punta Cana Hits cumple 10 años y lo celebramos en grande.
Punta Cana Hits, una gran emoción.
Prepárate para una noche llena de música, sorpresas y la mejor vibra. No te lo puedes perder. No te lo puedes perder. 10º aniversario de Punta Cana Hits. Sábado 22 de noviembre. Sábado 22 de noviembre. Te esperamos en Hard Rock Café, Downtown Punta Cana. En un punto luminoso de las Antillas Mayores, bañada por el Mar Caribe y el Océano Atlántico, está la República Dominicana, un lugar encantador. La gente, su cultura, la música, su gastronomía, los paisajes. Nuestro cálido ambiente tropical, lo tenemos todo. Y en el este del país está Bávaro. Con sus hermosas playas y demás bellezas naturales. En ese paradisíaco lugar, transmite la emisora internacional Punta Cana Hits. Informando desde los lugares más hermosos y acogedores que tiene la República Dominicana. Bávaro, un destino fabuloso. Desde Bávaro para el mundo, Punta Cana Hits vive por ti.
Friday at 7 p.m., Punta Cana Hits presents What's Up Punta Cana with Kristi Maggio, the #1 English talk show in the area, with the best that the Dominican Republic and the rest of the world have to offer.
Ahora vas a escuchar Orientación Migratoria con la licenciada Machelin Díaz.
En Machelin Díaz celebramos historias de miles de dominicanos que ya son ciudadanos españoles gracias a la ley de nietos. ¿Tienes ascendencia española? No dejes pasar esta oportunidad única de obtener tu doble nacionalidad. Escríbenos al +34 608 807 336 o visita www.ruta.machelindiaz.com. Otros como tú ya lo lograron con nuestra ayuda.
Every Friday at 7 p.m., Punta Cana Hits presents What's Up Punta Cana with Kristi Maggio, the #1 English talk show in the area, with the best that the Dominican Republic and the rest of the world have to offer.
All right. We're back with my guest for this evening, David Chokachi. Just before the break, we were talking about his work that he does with a group called Wings of Rescue and how he helps save dogs and from being killed in. And the station manager's just saying that you need to come here. You need to come here because unfortunately, even here in the Dominican Republic, there's so many poor dogs that are being killed for no reason. But
No,
I want to ask you a question about your daughter, and do you involve her in the work that you do? Because I think it's so important today. Parents a lot of times don't involve their children necessarily in the work that they do, and I think that that's an important part. Do you incorporate her in this humanitarian work that you do?
Oh, yeah. She it's really cool because like I even when she was little, like let's see that I don't know when she really started talking. I guess 4, right around there. But with Surfrider Foundation and with any of this, what happens is people will see trash everywhere and they go, oh, that's it's just too much. What's the point? I'm just gonna add to it, or I'm not gonna help. I'm not picking that up, or picking any of it up. But actually the philosophy is like, and a number of people like, if you just remove one piece of trash, you are making a difference. So it's like, we made up this deal. I made this deal with my daughter. I said, anytime we go to the beach or the ocean, whether we're surfing or not, the first thing you have to do is run and get 3 pieces of trash and bring them to me. And so we started her like when she was really young, and every single time she would do that because there's always trash, even up here where the beaches are really clean. And so it's become a ritual. And to this day, I mean, it's starting to taper off because she just turned 14, but she, but all those younger years, she would get all her buddies. She's like, all right, everybody, before we go in the water, we have to get trash. And it created this momentum. And I got all of them to do beach cleanups. During COVID, we cleaned up our beach twice. I brought her down to a number of Surfrider Foundation run beach cleanups where she's been a part of that. And she's been part of Wings of Rescue. She's come out to help load the planes, and that part, like she's like, yeah, but I want to go on the plane with you. But I definitely have, and again, it's like, I could just sit at home. I could just be chilling. I could go play golf. I could do nothing. I could be watching Netflix, but that's not the example I want to show my daughter. And
Right.
She just sees me like leaving at like crazy early hours, or, and I'm gone and then I'm back really quickly. It's like their strike missions. So I think, even though she's not, she's not as bad. She doesn't really want to hear all the details that I'm dying to share with anyone.
Right.
But it's basically like go back to like lead by example. And I think through osmosis, eventually she will go look back at, kind of what I'm doing, and I'll continue to do. And she'll be like, oh, wow, and then I do overhear her telling her friends like, oh, my dad flies dogs that are going to be killed. She saves their lives. And, that part's awesome. And, I think basically at some point in her life, she'll look back and go, wow, my dad was doing some amazing, completely unselfish work. Like he just because he loves dogs, and and I really do. I've always had ever since I was born, my parents had dogs, and I've never been. I don't think maybe I shot a TV show in Toronto called Witchblade. That's the only time I didn't have a dog, but I grew up with dogs always, like in my entire life. So ever since I was born, and then we started our rescuing in 2000 was our first one, and we've always had a rescue ever since. And I have just an affinity for them. And nothing against you or anyone, but honestly, I'd rather be with dogs than most human beings because they're amazing creatures, and they don't do things that are like that just kind of like where you go, wow, why would you do that, or why would you say that, or why like they're just unconditional love, and I think if people if you really dig into it, the amount of healing that a dog can provide, like there's all kinds of programs now for vets coming back where they see, obviously they go from one environment where they're whether they're special operators or anyone who's like in these violent, what they're exposed to, and then they come back and there's no transition, so they're forced right back into reality, going from killing people and seeing their buddies killed to, okay, it's time to go to Costco and get diapers. And they're just like, what? Like they just go down deep, dark hole. And they've started, dogs have been a really important part for these guys. They started a program for vets where these vets, they'll match, they're not really emotional support dogs, but they are trained in a certain way. And they'll match the dog with the vet, with the combat vet, who's struggling. They'll match their personalities. They spend 2 weeks together at this place, and then they go home with that dog. And I listened to this one story about this guy who went from straight up suicidal to living the best life he flourished just because of the dog. And there's millions of stories like that, and they're so intuitive. Like, I don't know. So if I feel like, a lot of places, even in the US, people they're like, oh, it's just a dog, that's why there's a lot of animal cruelty, they're like, they look at it like it's lesser than them. And when in reality, it's like dogs should be, they're just incredible. What they can see things, they tap into a frequency we can't even tap into as humans. And if people just kind of focused on that for a minute, I think they would stop being like so, just so easy and quick to throw. Like, I mean, ever since the fires, they're dumping dogs left and right, all over the place here. Like, a lot of people are struggling. They don't have homes, or the places they went into, the new homes they're in, they don't take a certain breed of dog, or and people have this mindset also that, oh, I'm going to surrender my dog to the shelter and it's going to live this beautiful life. Well, let me tell you, that is not the case. You'll be lucky if your dog is there for 30 days and you don't claim it, then it's part of the system. And if that shelter becomes overcrowded, it becomes a numbers game, like straight up. If they have space for 80 and that's all they can handle, but they have now 100 dogs, they're going to euthanize 20. And that's a daily occurrence in this country. And it's really sad because these dogs, I can't even tell you, I've probably flown a couple thousand dogs since I've started working with Wings of Rescue. Not one dog who's been living a shelter life, by the way. This is not a dog that's coming from a beautiful home. These dogs have been kind of stuck in the shelter system for a long time. I've never been and I have to grab them either and handle them, and I've never been growled at once. I've never experienced any negative behavior. So I think they get a bad rap, and people's idea of surrendering their dog to the shelter is so wrong. It's so skewed. So just, I try and subtly, move the needle.
Yeah. No, and you are moving the needle, it is moving. And I think having that compassion for dogs, because like you said, dogs make everybody happier. Dogs are man's best friend. There's a reason why they're called man's best friend, you know,
Yeah.
and it's for that reason. And even when you told the story about, you know, the veterans who that changed their life. I mean, there's so many people out there that need that companion, that need that company, you know, and there's plenty of dogs to go around for that.
Oh my God.
I think mental health wise, a dog can make everybody happier.
Straight up. And there's obviously like worldwide, there's clearly mental health thing, like it's exploding, like the problems, especially with kids and phones and social media. And, but
Yeah.
you know, dog, you know, it gives you have to have you're responsible for it. You
Yeah.
hopefully you have a heart that you're going to feed it, you're going to walk it, you're going to exercise it. So it breaks you out of the habit of, I'm just going to sit around and watch TV all day or look at my phone. And so just that alone is a really positive side of it.
Absolutely, because even with the responsibility side for young people, you know, it gets anything that gets young people out of their own head can be helpful. How do you feel? Let's go down that bit of a rabbit hole with, you know, with your daughter. She's 14, you know, and so in looking at social media and, you know, being online, I often ask this question because, you know, I own a school, I work with teenagers every day, and I like to get perspective from others, and especially those who have children that age. Where do you find a balance in that? Does she use social media, and how do you see it for young people?
She does, you know, she does have a phone. Because I've actually seen both sides of it. I've had friends who said, you're not having any phones, no iPads.
Mm-hmm.
And they would be begging my daughter to grab their iPad. This is when they were younger too. They'd be begging, like, please, can we just watch something on the iPad? And then they would be like, just zombie, like locked in, like, oh my God, what do we see? Like, so I'm not sure if that works either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Sure.
because as soon as they have access to it, they are just like, but for, you know, us, it's not easy. I mean, every single parent I know struggles with this. We just try and basically, you know, I mean, the greatest thing about it is it's leverage. So if she's not doing well in school, the phone goes. I take the phone. If she's done, you know, doing her chores, which are not that much, the phone gets taken away for a certain amount of time. And you can use it as that. It's not, you know, and she is on, they kind of use like Snapchat to like, that's their way of communicating with each other. And
which
it's
I
not
don't
great
understand,
because
but
then they know who's like, I've seen her see a bunch of her friends together, but she wasn't invited. So then she'd feel left out. I'm like, oh my God, what? This is like a nightmare. There's no way to win.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, I don't think it's really like, there's just no stopping it. I mean, it's happening, and it's just, I think it's just, and you can't spend your life battle as a parent. Like, you know, you can't fight every battle or every war. You gotta be strategic. We do our best. And luckily we live in a great place where she now, like, after school, she's going to the public school here, and her kids, I mean, her friends, they can running over and they all go surfing. So there's nobody when you go to the beach and you're surfing, they're never on their phones unless they need like a ride home when they're done surfing. That's it. So, they're in nature a lot. They're cruising around. They have these like little e-bike things, because we're kind of in this neighborhood where you can ride your golf cart to the grocery store. So that's an upside. You know, if I was living in New York City with kids, I would be really like, I think I would be at a loss how you control it, because we lived in New York City for a while when she was younger. She was actually born there, and but you know, she lived there. We all lived there until she was 3, and then moved back to LA. But you know, wintertime, it's like, you know, I grew up in New England and Massachusetts. I went to college in Maine, where we had ice storms. You know, so you're going with a little kid, you're going outside maybe once, no matter what the weather's like. I would always take her out, but it's like one outing and then we're back in the apartment, and there's really
Right.
a snowstorm, there's nowhere to go. And with older kids, I can't imagine how much phone screen time they're getting. It's got to be through the roof. But I think it's super challenging. It's not good. It's not good because they are losing. I brought this up to her. I go, I watch what she's watching. I go, you're watching a video about someone surfing when right now you could grab your board and go surf. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And I'll explain this to her, but it's still like in one ear, out the other. They're like, yeah, but, and I'm like, no. Think about that. You could be surfing right now, but you're watching it. Like, why not go do it? It's tough, but I feel like people are so distracted. They've changed the way we make movies. They have to make them shorter because people's attention span is shorter because they want to look at Instagram and they want to watch 20-second or a TikTok video that lasts 20 seconds and go to the next one. So the whole thing is like messed up. Like even like what we do creatively as actors now, it's like they keep telling us like a runtime on a movie has to be 86 minutes. If it's any longer, people won't watch the whole thing. I'm like, oh my God, like really? But if it's a good movie, they're not going to stick around and watch it. Like, so I don't know. What have you found when you were teenagers? I mean, it's also what's dangerous about it is first of all, like the bullying. That happens, and then second of all the creeps, the pedophiles who are trolling so it's like all that stuff is a whole nother level of scariness. But I just we monitor it. I check what she's doing. I can see where she is. I can see. We'll just kind of walk in on her and like because I'm gonna drop in and see what you're still watching. And most of the time, a lot of times it's actually cool stuff, some creative stuff. She's gotten into henna tattooing. She's a sick artist and she's really good at it. And she learned it on TikTok. So I don't know. There's some upside to
Absolutely.
it.
100% there's upsides to it. It's a tool, right? Like, so, you can use a tool for the good, or you could use a tool for the bad. And that's just how it is. And I often have those conversations, even still with parents or with the child. And the fact that you monitor it, that's important. That's number one, and then two is the communication that you have with her. Like, if she sees something, it's having that open communication, like teaching them that not everything on there is real, or even for you, because you are somewhat in the limelight, like showing, I don't know, maybe something negative that somebody said about you or something to that effect, and be like, see, like somebody said this about me. Do I really care? Not really, because people are going to say good things and bad things about you, your entire life, but showing them the positive side of it. But I think the problem is today too, is that a lot of parents don't monitor their children's usage because they want to be their friend. They think that the kid's not going to trust them. But I always use it as an example. This is the example that I give to parents. It's like, would you hand your child a loaded gun and tell them, go figure out how to use it, right? If you do that, then you have a really good chance that they're probably not going to use it properly and get hurt, And so I think with social media and everything else, it's like that loaded gun. You can teach them how to properly use it, or you can teach them or nothing, and they can go out and experience all of the craziness out there. There's a chance they'll use it for the good, but there's also there's also the same amount of chance that they can get hurt by it, So but I think that is great of you, because like you said, I know, and I use it a lot in teaching, is teaching them how to use it so that they can learn from it and grow from it, because there are so many things out there, tutorials, how to make things and how to do
Oh
things.
yeah.
And like you said, your daughter's a great artist. So she's being able to develop that on TikTok. And so, like you said, it has its benefits, you know, and it's just getting them to use the benefits more than, you know.
Yeah. What do you exactly? Because the whole thing's feeding whatever, the algorithm's feeding you whatever you keep.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it. I've found like incredible like people like Andrew Huberman, this guy. He's like a mad scientist, biohacker kind of guy. But a lot of things I've found, I see them on Instagram, and then I go listen to their podcast or I buy their book, and then I like actually do the research or read their stuff, and it's like, but it without it, I kind of wouldn't have known about like a few of these guys that I adopted a bunch of their philosophies and what they really like, how to improve your overall mental health. Like there's some great things that are really just like outside your door. That I do kind of religiously. And so I wouldn't have found them, I guess, necessarily without that. So it's yeah. But I just don't think, kids don't work. They don't have jobs. When I grew up, I mean, first of all, my parents were hardcore. We started working like as soon as I was tall enough to push a lawnmower. I think it was like 7th grade, and from then on I always had a job, and like summers, whatever between school, we worked, and then when we weren't working at a job, we'd work. My dad his idea of relating to us was to have my brother and I do yard work, and it was every weekend, and it was nonstop. So like, our buddies would go on the beach, like you come in, and we're like, we're trying, but we're not sure. And then my dad would be like, you guys aren't going anywhere, he was just hardcore, like you have work to do. And like, but fast forward to like even now, I have like the most insane work ethic. I can outwork people. So it paid off. And kids nowadays, like I fear that they're not going to be capable of like sitting down or following through on anything or working for 8, 10 and 12 hours a day, because they're so used to getting these quick hits, or they don't have the skills, and they're not developing skills. So one of the things I've been forcing on my daughter is that she stays in junior lifeguarding, because and it's really weird. It's actually, she's at Zuma Beach, and the program there is run by one of the creators of Baywatch, Greg Bonan. He runs the older kids, like the more elite kids. So you can start at age 9, and then by age 16, you graduate, and then you can take the test at age 16 and become a state lifeguard, and you can make like up to $40,000 a year. And then at age 18, if you keep staying in, you can apply for the like LA County, and if you pass that, I mean, you can at age 18, you can make upwards of like $80,000 a year.
Wow.
If you speak 2 languages or another language, you add 10,000 right away. Multiple languages, that adds numbers. And if my daughter goes to school anywhere in the, like say California, which I think she will, that can be her job. And I go down, I drop her off, and then I watch the lifeguards with their job is, I mean, unless the surf is pumping or there's a really bad rip tide, like their job is like they come down, they open the tower, they go for a run, they come back, they look around, but nobody's really in the water, they go for an ocean swim. They come back, then a bunch of other lifeguards, they're high-fiving each other. It's the most healthy community of people who are super fit, and they're definitely putting their lives on the line a lot of time when it comes time to do it. But in the meantime, it's just, it's a great job that you can do. And that skill set is like something she'll have the rest of her life.
Absolutely.
She can save her own life. She can save one of our lives if we're in trouble, a stranger's life. This is a great example. I was surfing, I don't know, a couple months ago, and this dad, he's a pretty good surfer and like a decent ocean swimmer. But he had been in Hawaii on vacation with his family, and his daughter had been a junior lifeguard, and then worked as a lifeguard for a few years, and then stopped and moved on and was doing like something else. But they were in Hawaii. He hadn't eaten food, and it was super hot, and he was just swimming, and it was like all of a sudden he was stuck in a rip current, and he found it. He basically panicked. He did what everybody you're not supposed to do, and he tried to make it to shore, and he swam against it. Next, like he was in serious trouble, and he said his daughter recognized this like immediately, grabbed a surfboard, like sprint paddled out to him, pulled him on the board. She recovered. She paddled him in, and he told me, and he's like, she literally saved my life. He was like, I would have drowned if she wasn't, had she not gone through that training, had she not been aware. He's like, I've been gone right now. And I was like, wow. So that program and lifeguarding in general is such an awesome thing. I preach it pretty strong. And like with my daughter, I'm like, there's only a few things I make you really do, and that's going to be one of them. You're staying. So.
Absolutely. I was a lifeguard when I was young, and like just the money itself, like at that age, like, I mean, I graduated in 95, like high school in 1995. So bringing me back there. But
where from?
I'm from upstate New York, Rome, New York. Yeah. So, but at that point in time, like for me, it was hard. It's a difficult thing to do. And, my niece got her lifeguarding. She's a teenager, and it's a great summer job. Like, and it's such a great program. I mean, I highly recommend it for all young people because, like you said, it is, out there in LA, that's fantastic. But even for young people in general, learn first aid, CPR, being able to save lives, like it is truly commendable, and you need that work ethic and responsibility in order to do it. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, and there's a huge shortage. They because a lot of times they have these pools, or they'll have events. Like if you have a party at your house, it's a city law.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a lifeguard, but there's a huge shortage. Nobody wants to, or nobody's doing it, and like, the money is fantastic. I mean, you make a ton of money in an afternoon, but people aren't doing it. So, it's like there's no excuse. People are just got more excuses, and
always an excuse. Always an excuse. You're absolutely right.
Like,
nowadays, it's very difficult.
Get up earlier.
I agree. And you're an early riser. I'm an early riser. And I'd love to talk more about this. However, we've come to the end of the show, and it's crazy that an hour has gone by already. But one last thing that you would like to leave, a bit of advice, something that you want to tell other young people out there or other people who are listening before we close.
Yeah, I get this a lot for even actors, people who want to be actors. Well, there's a couple things that goes along with that is like, and I used to like have a roommate who would never leave LA because he thought he might miss an audition. And then meanwhile, I would be always taking trips, like finding a way to either go camping or going mountain biking in southern Utah, or would go up to Alaska and go fly fishing, or and experiencing life. And I ended up on this TV show called Witchblade, and there used to be it was called like the casting log. It was like what they call it, like it was a magazine for the industry. And this casting director she was the editor for that, and she called me and she's like, we did this interview, and then she asked kind of what my approach was, and I said, I go experience life, because then I come back and I feel like I've experienced something good, great, bad, whatever, but I've added to my overall life experience, and I'm a more interesting person when I come back from anything. But when you sit around your house waiting for the phone to ring, or waiting to go to your acting class, you're not growing as a human.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you need to go do things. You need to go live a life, and then you need to study. Obviously, you have to be in an acting class and do all of that, but you cannot just be so single-minded thinking that's gonna. You won't have anything to bring to a character. I mean, the reason I feel like at my age where I'm at right now, and this last year I've done, I'm about to start in November. I was starting like my 10th movie in 15 months. All of the movies I got myself basically through former work relationships, or just ran. but I feel like I'm doing the best work I've ever done in my life. And it's so like the process and all of it is so fun. I'm enjoying it more than ever. But a lot of it has to do with, I always chose to, when there was something came up, if it's an opportunity to go travel, I would go travel. And this woman, when I was in that, she interviewed me, she was like, that is the best advice I've ever heard. And she's like, I wish more actors thought like that. And so I think that's really important, that people, you have to grow as a human being in order to bring any kind of depth to a character, to anything you're going to play as an actor. And then, I really think it's about, again, I'd hate to be preachy because the kids are going to be like, Clank, shut this off.
No, not at all.
But, I just think real enjoyment, like, and maybe it just takes a while to get there, but real enjoyment comes from actually like working hard and like working out or getting up early and working out, and then doing things, being active, being in nature, as opposed to just doing what's easy. Like, I think people want to take the path of least resistance. Like, I don't know who came up with that stupid saying, but that's like comfort is the fastest way to your coffin. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So you're sitting around and you're on your couch and you're eating pizza and you're watching Netflix, scrolling on your phone. Like, guess what? You're gonna live a shorter life than I am, because I'm never doing that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I just I hope people, and I also, I grew up, I learned a trade. I use that trade. I just renovated our garage. I loan out my carpentry skills to anybody around, like anybody out here. I'm always building stuff for whatever school my daughter goes to. Like, learn a trade, like learn whether it's an electrician or carpentry. Like, that's something you can always carry with you, especially if you're young. You go work as a laborer for a few years, and then you know how to build a house, basically. And so I think those things are important, and and just you gotta have discipline, and you gotta be your own dog, and you gotta like kind of just follow your heart. You gotta a lot of people, I had so many friends who were here trying to be actors, but they didn't have jobs. It's too bad. Or they had these jobs that paid them like minimal, and they couldn't pay rent, so I got bounced out of here. And as soon as I moved to LA after the earthquake and after working for FEMA, and I moved into this, I was moving in real quick, and I'm in an apartment building, and this guy was renovating it, and I said to him, just kind of off the cuff, I'm like, hey man, if you ever need someone to swing a hammer, I'm really good. And he's like, yeah, well, whatever. And then so we moved in. The next morning, he knocks on my door at 7. He's like, you want to go to work? And I was like, yep. And I worked with him all the way up until I got Baywatch. And then even I didn't, because he was super cool. He let me audition, leave this job site, go to an audition, come back, and go back to work. And so I stayed with him all the way up until we started filming, just because he was like, he honored my path. And but it's I think you can't say it enough. You've got to, you feel better when you do things, and I think it's overlooked. It's just we're getting the wrong messages from so many different places about foods we eat or what we should be doing, or and you just, I don't know, you got to find the right messaging or hang out with the right people.
I would say that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, because even today we live in that, you can make 5-6 figures in a month in just 30 days or whatever it is. And, it's all of that fake. But I think that, what you said is probably the most sound advice. Work hard, get a work ethic, and experience as much as you possibly can. And like you said, for actors, that's so important because of the sheer fact that, when you're going into a role like you did, and I heard from one of your other interviews, you already had been on the beach, you lived in the water, you knew how to sail, you knew how to do all these things, and you brought that into your Baywatch role. And that's what the experiences that you had already had to bring to the job is what got you that role. And so I just think that that's a great note to end on. And how can people find you on socials?
On Instagram, it's the real David Chokachi. So THEREAL David Chokachi, CHOKACHI.